Disagree all your like. It's absolutely your right to do so. But I'll tell you what, Jets fans, there's some stuff going on at One Jets Drive that I think it's okay to say we're feeling pretty good about, despite the 2-9 record. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So the Jets drop a decision on the road as expected. They lose to the Ravens 23-10. A game beat the spread. Spread was 13.5. But listen, this game was close for a lot longer than we expected it to be. I honestly thought this could be a 20-plus point loss. Honestly, going into the game, I didn't realize Lamar Jackson was still dinged up. Heard some pregame stuff and thought, okay, maybe the Jets do keep it a little closer. But either way, putting that aside, things are getting better, folks. And you may not want to hear it, and I don't blame you. I'm just as fed up with the losing as anybody else is. But sometimes you got to take a step back. And I did this a few weeks ago. Maybe it was 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. It was pre-Sauce and Quinnen trade. I know that because they were part of what I was saying. Like, hey, this is going well. Sauce, despite what the people on Twitter say, is playing well. Quinnen was playing well. There were a lot of things. The penalties were getting better. We weren't seeing as many stupid, foolish mistakes. The tackling was getting better. They were cleaning up there. You can't overstate the importance of good tackling versus bad. I mean, it's something that rarely gets talked about, but when you clean that up, it makes life so much easier. And really, in the past 6, 7 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, the Cincinnati game where the tackling was bad, every other game, it's been fine. Aaron Glenn has cleaned that up. Aaron Glenn has cleaned up the penalties. I know Aaron Glenn's getting a lot of hate on, from Jets fans. And listen, he ain't perfect. I don't like that he's soft with the media. I don't like that he goes up to the podium looking for a fight. I have no problem with a head coach fighting with the media and telling them when they're dumb, telling them when they're wrong, putting them in their place. I have no problem with any of that stuff. My only problem is that Aaron Glenn does it when there's no reason for it. Hey, Aaron, is so-and-so hurt? Oh, what do you mean? No, don't go ask Rich. Like, dude, it's a normal question. But getting away from that, look, this is positive stuff. Forgetting that Aaron Glenn is a little bit overly sensitive. He's done a great job. Again, the penalties cleaned up. Tackling is better. There's a couple weeks in a row playing football teams that are far more talented than the Jets are. And, obviously, primarily at quarterback. And they're hanging in there. It's not the blowouts that we saw under Ulbrich and Saleh and some of the stuff earlier this year with Aaron Glenn. Justin Fields going to the bench had to happen. I see people saying, oh, look, same results. No. Justin Fields starts that game yesterday. He throws for 32 yards. Listen, the Jets scored 2 touchdowns against the Patriots. One of them, they ran the ball 350 times on the same drive and threw it twice. They hid Justin Fields. They let him run it, but they had to hide his arm. That was the first drive. Drive number 1, hide the quarterback's arm. Scoring drive number 2, John Mechie, the dude covering John Mechie, falls flat on his face. There's not a defender within 10, 15 yards of Mechie, and Justin Fields miraculously hits him for a touchdown. Pardon me if I'm not blown away by that performance. Tyrod Taylor against, an actual team playing defense, defenders standing up on both feet, managed to throw for 220-plus yards, threw a touchdown to Mechie. Yes, he had the near pick, but as I've said, Jesus Christ, give me a pick or two if it means you're going to take some shots down the field and give yourself a chance to score. You talk to me about Justin Fields doesn't have any interceptions. He got 1 pick. Yeah, because everything is 5 yards. That's why he's got no picks. It's getting better, folks. It's getting better. And listen, Darren Muji, I thought this a million times last night. I was highly critical of Muji, the whole not going to the Senior Bowl thing, because I wanted the GM to walk in the door with with a fire lit under his ass and saying, hey, let's get to work. Let's go start evaluating some talent. And Muji said, let's stay in, whatever he did, arrange the office, help Aaron Glenn find coaches, whatever it was. My preference was get the job, show up to work, pack your bag, and get to Mobile and watch some players. I didn't like that. However, you look at what Muji has done with these trades, and it was, we've been saying since week, like 2, 3? Like, man, Juwan Briggs looks like he can play. They might have something here. And I'd said, pre-Quinnen trade, could this be the guy that starts next year alongside Quinnen Williams? Can he do a little bit of everything? He does a nice job collapsing the pocket. He had a sack yesterday. And now you look at what Mechie's doing. You look at A.D. Mitchell. Again, last week we talked about the 3 drops, but he's creating separation. Created separation again last night. Had a couple of catches. One, he had some decent yak. Breece Hall. Listen, I don't know what it is about Jets coaches, offensive coordinators. They need like 10 weeks of watching Breece Hall before they're like, maybe we should throw this guy the ball. 4 catches for 75 yards yesterday. I'm watching that game yesterday, and I'm thinking, and this is against the Ravens. Put their record aside. Look at what they've done in the last 4 or 5 weeks. The Ravens are back. Like they're, aside from the Lamar injury, defensively, they've been very good in recent weeks. Offensively, they have some weapons. Yeah, Zay Flowers has the occasional drop. Henry hasn't quite been himself. King Henry out of the backfield hasn't really been himself this year. He's been good, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying his yards per carry is down more than a yard per carry from last year. He's had 4 games, I believe, this season of under 4.5 yards a carry. Only had 1 or 2 all of last year. So he slipped a little bit, but these guys can still put up some points and wear you down. Harrison Phillips, give that dude a ton of credit. He played out of his mind last night. And there was talk, I say last night, it was night when I was watching it. There was talk he might not play. He's got the bad foot. He's in a boot. He was fantastic. Him and Juwan Briggs, really nice tandem. John Mechie, listen, I think he finished 12 yards shy of a career high yesterday. Talked about A.D. Mitchell and his physical ability, the speed, the explosiveness, the size. His team's, and who would have thought? I mean, listen, Azareye'h Thomas is a guy that we all had high hopes for. He's been fantastic. He's been really, really good. So this draft class that Muji's put together with the trades he has made, listen, give this dude credit, right? I mean, like I said, didn't love the decision to not evaluate right away, but it's worked out okay. And as we said, they did, there are guys on the staff. I said at the time when I was critical and said, oh, Muji didn't go to the Senior Bowl. Well, you know what? Rick Spielman did. And he was there evaluating for CBS Sports for the draft pod they did. And then he hires Spielman. So now you've got an experienced GM in the building who was in Mobile evaluating players. That helps. I mean, again, ideally it's the GM, but you had an experienced guy there. And this draft class has been very good. The veteran additions have been very good. And now, obviously, the job becomes get the quarterback. Surprise, surprise. That's been the damn job for 4 decades now. That's an entirely... I pitched a scenario a few weeks ago. And I said, even though, in all honesty, I'm watching the results of the games of the Jets, the teams the Jets are competing with the top picks for. I'm going to pay attention. I want the highest pick possible. But I've said, I'm not obsessing over the quarterback anymore in terms of this year's draft. And I said this a few weeks ago. I started the show by saying, calm down with worrying about draft position, because there is a very realistic chance that this ends up being a draft where one quarterback is available. There's rumors Dante Moore is going back to school. Ty Simpson as a 1-year starter with NIL money waiting for him, I don't think it's crazy to assume he may go back to school. That leaves you with Fernando Mendoza. The Jets aren't picking 1, and they may not pick 2. I can see them beating New Orleans, as much as you may not want that to happen. And as I'm saying here, things are getting better. This team is improving. They may steal a win against somebody else. And you can sit here and say, Glenn, just trade up. Just trade up. You have the ammunition to trade up. Well, what if you like Mendoza, but you don't like him enough to give up multiple 1s? Or a 1 and a couple of 2s? Maybe you don't like him that much. Or maybe the Titans are sitting at 1 and they love a guy. They're not taking a quarterback. Maybe they love a guy and they think, man, if we move any lower than 2, then we could lose the guy we want. Because the team that ends up between us and 1 could grab the guy we want. So Tennessee may not be willing to move down. So as I said a few weeks ago, I'm not getting all wrapped up in which quarterback the Jets can get because I don't think it's unrealistic to assume there's a chance there's 1 quarterback available, Fernando Mendoza, and there's a good chance the Jets aren't in position to draft him if Tennessee isn't looking to move down or if they're not looking to move down lower than 2. So unless the Jets finish second in the draft in the draft slotting, I don't see how they get a quarterback if it's a 1 QB class. Yes, there will be guys later that you can take. You can roll the dice on a Nussmeier or a Klubnik or whatever. But in terms of top premium guys viewed as top 5, top 10 picks, I don't think there's going to be more than 1, and I don't think the Jets are going to be in position to take them. So be ready for a vet QB, be ready for a mid-rounder who you can work with for a year while you look toward the following year and draft a quarterback. And as I've said before, if you're the Jets and you're sitting at 4 or 5 and the quarterback is gone, maybe you move down and add another first next year. And then you got 4 ones next season. So I understand the scoreboard watching. I understand why Jets fans are looking at what other teams are doing to see if they're going to get the draft position to take a quarterback. I'm doing the same thing. But I said it a few weeks ago, still believe it now. There's a good chance the New York Jets will not be in position to get a quarterback in this draft because Simpson may go back to school, Moore may go back to school. It becomes a 1 QB class, and 3 or 4 wins, which is where the Jets may end up, will not get you that player. You can try to trade up. If Tennessee doesn't want to move because they don't want to lose out on their guy, you ain't getting the quarterback. So just be prepared for that reality. And my good friend Scott Mason yesterday, talked to him, and he was apparently Dane Brugler was out there putting out that exact scenario yesterday. Oh, well, I heard about it yesterday. He may have put it out there a few days ago, whatever it was. He made exactly that point. This could be a 1 QB class. And I'm not saying I'm happy about it. I'm mentally preparing myself for like, oh boy, this could be another class. This could be another year next season with a veteran stopgap or a project quarterback. But I'm going to chill because they're going to have 3, maybe more first rounders to get it right the next year. And if you keep doing what you're doing, if Darren Muji has another class like he had this year, these rookies are playing well. You know, they're not all great. They're not all perfect. But you have guys starting and playing at a high level. So sign me up for some more of that next year. Hopping in the chat real quick. Jerry Kirby says, Bill Parcells, yeah, she's okay. Comment about Terry Glenn was years ago. Yeah, we all, well, I almost said we all remember that. We don't. I'm old now. There's a lot of people who don't remember that. Eric says we need a real QB. Absolutely. They have needed a real QB for a very long time, and I think they will try to get one in 2 years. Not this draft, but look, they'll try this year, but it's more likely with all the bounty of picks they will have in 2027. That's where they likely get somebody. Who do you think we should draft a QB? QAA says. Listen, Mendoza to me and Simpson are if I'm going to assume that I nearly said Kuiper. I'm going to assume that Todd McShay is right and Moore is going back to college. If he's out of the equation, I would say give me Mendoza because he's the more seasoned guy, great ball placement, good high character. Ty Simpson just doesn't have the reps. He's struggled a little bit more recently than he had, in the weeks leading up to now. So I think that his stock may be falling a little bit. Of course, he could have a good playoff. He could have a great Senior Bowl and elevate his stock once again. But again, that's if he comes out. When you have 1 year of start, if there was no NIL, if there was no way for Ty Simpson to go back to Alabama and make $6-7 million next year, I would say he's probably coming out to get paid. But now he's not going to make a great deal more as a top pick. And really, if you look at New York and their taxes versus Alabama and their taxes, it might be a wash. He might make the same money to play for Alabama next year that he would to come out and play with the Jets. or some of the, you know, you got to have to look at the other teams that are in the top 5 that where he might go. So I think Mendoza's the pick. I think again the maturity, the experience, but either one, you know, well, I'd have to. To be honest, I've watched more Mendoza than I have of Simpson. I'd have to see more of Simpson, but I have liked what I've seen of him so far. He does some things really well. Let's see. Eric says we need a QB that can read a defense and stay in the pocket. Well, that'd be nice, but the thing to keep in mind there, though, Eric, even though it didn't work out with Justin Fields, it was highly reported, and we saw it come to fruition when Aaron Glenn was hired that he wants a quarterback who can run. He wants a running QB. Now, look, Mendoza isn't a runner per se, but he can run. And there's a lot of it's really, I mean, look, it's 2025, folks. How many quarterbacks do you watch and go, oh, that guy can't make plays with his legs? Like almost everybody can do enough to keep a defense honest. But I don't think Aaron Glenn wants that. I think Aaron Glenn wants electric guy you have to game plan just for his ability to run as a separate entity other than, you know, defending the pass. Not everybody gives you that. And that's why I thought before the season, keep an eye on Lenora Sellers. Tell you what, the way he's played, I think he goes back to school too. And if he comes out, he might be a guy the Jets grab in the second round. He might be that sort of project developmental quarterback who they try to bring along. Let's see. Saber says better QBs in 27. Absolutely. I mean, listen, even if things don't go as planned, which they won't, they never do. There's right now like 10 or 12 quarterbacks that you would have rated ahead of this year's guys. So, you know, not necessarily ahead of Mendoza, but ahead of, you know, I mean, listen, Lenore Sellers next year, I would hope his stock will be higher than it is this year. Another year of college will help him. I think he should go back to college. But yeah, the class in 27 is better. That's the way to go, is if you ask me, if Mendoza's not there. Eric says he would trade for Broadway Joe Burrow. Eric, nothing personal. I think that's crazy talk. And I know you're not the only one saying it. But Joe Burrow would have to waive his no trade clause. Sorry, let me say that again. Injury-prone Joe Burrow would have to waive his no trade clause to come play on one of the worst surfaces in the NFL for one of the worst owners in the NFL. I mean, say what you will about the Bengals, they're better than the Jets. Like, hey, Joe, we want you to get worse and significantly increase your likelihood of getting injured. All you got to do is waive your no trade clause. I don't see any world in which Joe Burrow is. And Darren Muji, listen, I just complimented the guy. If you trade for an injury-prone quarterback and he gets hurt again, week 4, Joe Burrow's down. He's going to miss the next 13 weeks. You're fired. Like, go. You don't trade for injury-prone quarterbacks, especially when you play at MetLife Stadium. Let's see. No shortcuts built through the draft. Grab a vet, says Saber. Draft the project. Yeah, listen, I think you draft the project this year. An interesting one. Pardon me. I haven't watched a ton of him this year. When I have, he hasn't looked good, and that's sort of, I think, universally agreed upon. Cade Klubnik has looked really bad, but somebody made a fair point about him the other day. I say fair because I've not watched enough of him to pick up on it, and I may have just missed it. But they're saying Klubnik doesn't look healthy. They're saying the motion, the delivery, the hips, the follow-through, like a lot in his mechanics looks like he's nursing something. So maybe there's something there with Klubnik. Maybe he's dinged up. Maybe he needs an off season. Which podcast was it? I wanna shout them out because they do a really good job. And I'm drawing a blank. Pardon me, drawing a blank here. Give me just 1 second. There we go. It's the Locked On. Locked On Network has some great stuff. But the Locked On Daily Draft podcast. And they were just saying, like, look, Klubnik, he needs to go to Mobile. He needs to go to go down there healthy and hopefully not broken if something is, if something's going on, and show people that last year's version of him is the real version, and this year was a guy who was playing through some injuries. So maybe that happens. Again, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, like these guys who were supposed to be first rounders, and now they're going to go well beyond the first round. Maybe if you're the Jets, you grab them and try to get them back to being the player they were when everyone thought they were going to be first round picks. Let's see. Eric says, let the running back run, not the QB. Eric, I don't necessarily disagree, but it's 2025, man. Like, everybody's got a running quarterback. Super Bowls are being won by guys. Now, listen, you have to be able to throw first. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't get a run first guy, but if you don't have a guy who's stressing defenses with his ability to make plays with his legs, you're at a serious disadvantage every week because you're going to be playing somebody who does. So teams are just, it's a matter of, again, are you willing to take a guy who can run, who is able to run, or do you take a guy who is going to make you pay with the way they run? Not just a runner, but a playmaker. Saber says Clemson doesn't have the talent of years past. NIL and portal have doomed Dabo. Listen, I know I wasn't alone this preseason saying Clemson was going to win the national championship. When we were looking at prospects and mock drafts and putting together our own sort of list of top players, it's like Clemson, loaded with talent. Now they've disappointed. So were we wrong about the talent, or has the coaching done a poor job? Again, is there an injury with Klubnik? I don't know that. But I do know, listen, there is still, regardless of their record, there are a ton of guys on that Clemson roster who are going to go to the NFL. And there's a lot of them who are going to be top 100 picks, top 120. This year, next year, they have a ton of good players. As far as yesterday's game, listen, there's not a ton to say. Other than, I mean, I guess the overarching message is, look, they played well enough to keep it close and make Baltimore fight, and that was a good thing for this team as they try to figure out how to win some football games. But both teams just punted back and forth for the first quarter and a bit. Nobody scored until the Jets broke through in the second quarter when Mechie scored on a touchdown, a 12-play, 79-yard drive. Baltimore countered with a field goal. Baltimore then opened up the scoring in the second half with an 11-play drive, 74 yards, capped with a Derrick Henry touchdown run. The Jets then, this kind of the turning point in the game, right? The Jets had the ball. They're driving. They're down 10-7 at the 41-yard line, 42-yard line. Aaron Glenn goes for it on 4th and short. Jets come up short, and then Baltimore drives down the field 42 yards. Another Derrick Henry touchdown. Baltimore goes up 17-7. You kind of knew it was over at that point, even though the Jets did go down and kick a field goal, make it 17-10. Baltimore countered with a field goal. And then it kind of looked like the Jets had a shot. They're moving. This is where Breece Hall comes into play, had a huge play, catch and run, spin move to beat the first defender, cut across the opposite end of the field, and had a huge play. I believe 2 big plays in a row, and then he had a third play where he gets down to the 1-yard line, fumbles the ball away. Baltimore picks it up. They've got the ball. They've got a 20-10 lead. That, in all reality, is what put an end to the game. Tyrod Taylor closes it down with a heave and interception, but it was 23-10 at that point with, under a minute left. That game was over. It was done. But again, the Jets did some good things against a really good football team. I want to check Henry's rushing stats. I forget exactly what they were. 21 for 64. You held Derrick Henry to 3 yards per carry. That's a pretty damn good day. Now, on the other side, having said Breece Hall played really well as a pass catcher, not so great as a runner. 16 for 44 for Breece for 2.8 per carry. Mechie, again, 6 for 65 and a touchdown. I believe his career high was like 74, 76, something like that. So Mechie was within 10, 15 yards of a new career high in receiving yards. A.D. Mitchell only had 2 catches, but again, went for 42 yards. That's 21 a catch. One of them went for 26. He did a nice job. Again, you could see him creating separation, doing a really nice job, making a play after the catch. I talked about Harrison Phillips. He had himself, I think it was his best game of the year, to be honest. Jamie Sherwood played really well. Quincy Williams had 6 total tackles. They've got this ESPN. They've got Sherwood down for 13 tackles, and he had a ton. I mean, there were several plays where I felt like Harrison Phillips and Jamie Sherwood were the main factors in slowing Henry down. So really nice job there. Defensively, again, offensively, they did some things well. It's just it's a shame they didn't pull out the win. And again, I get it. I get the draft position thing, but I'm not obsessing over it. I know I can cheer as hard as I want for the Jets to win or lose. It's not going to change what's going to happen. So when I'm watching the game, I have a hard time wanting them to lose. But when the final whistle blows and they lost, I'm like, all right, that's cool. I don't mind. Not a big deal. In the chat again, Steven says the Jets' failure year after year. What's the root cause? The culture. Woody, yes. I don't see the culture changing. There's some truth to that. The Jets should build a stadium on Long Island and separate from the Giants. MetLife is a dull, poor stadium. A reboot might be good. You don't change the culture with new coaches, GMs, and QB. Look to winning cultures. The Pats, Pittsburgh, maybe in decline. KC and a few others. Listen, I would love for the Jets to get their own stadium, even though I'm that many miles away from or roughly from where it would be, and I would probably only get to a game every couple of years. But yeah, it'd be nice to not be the only team in the NFL that has to share a stadium with another club. But I just listen, owners, you give them the chance to split the costs, and they both get to. It's not like the Jets and Giants say, "Hey, we get to split costs, so we're going to cut prices in half." No, we're going to charge you like we're a standalone stadium. But when we pay the bills, we're gonna split the bills and save some money there. So asking Woody Johnson to walk away from the money from being able to split the bills with somebody, I don't know how likely that is. I don't know how concerned Woody is with that. But we'll see. There were some rumors. Excuse me. There were some rumors. About a year ago or sometime this offseason that there were someone claimed to have had some inside info or just become stumbled upon some information, I guess we'll say, claiming that Steve Cohen, is it, the Mets owner, was trying to convince Woody to build a stadium near Citi Field and build like a sports complex like a lot of cities have now. Philly's got one, KC's got one. Just put multiple stadiums in a short area and, build a little city sort of in the mix there. So we'll see what happens there. Rich, how we doing, buddy? Good to see you. What we need to see is trending up and what talent we have. Yeah, listen, they are trending up, but I mean, I've said it since, when they traded for AD Mitchell, I would just load that guy up on targets and see if he can be a wide receiver too. I think he can. I think Mechie is showing he'd be a I mean, how crazy would it be if right now, as we sit here in November, if we could sit there and say, you know what, the Jets have their top 3 receivers locked in. Like over the next 5-6 games, let's say AD Mitchell has himself a couple of 80-yard games with a couple of touchdowns, and we just see him again consistently getting separation where you can envision, okay, if we had better quarterback play, that dude would be putting up big numbers. And we can pair him with Garrett and put Mechie in the slot. I mean, good God, if that happens, give Muji GM of the year. That you could come out of this potentially having traded for your wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and a starting DT all in the span of a couple of months for pennies. I mean, that'd be fantastic work from Muji. But listen, things are not fantastic overall as a Jets fan. 2-9, all that, I get it. But things are getting better. And you gotta, this is a young team, which is another key part of this. It's one thing if you say, oh, the team's getting better, but all the veteran leaders are leaving next year, and this guy's going to retire in a year or two, and you don't know if you're going to be able to re-sign these 5 guys. Like, yeah, they have a lot of guys leaving, but the core pieces, they're not going anywhere. The core is in place. Let the players start seeing it. I would imagine that's the message behind the scenes to the players. Look, we're losing. It sucks. I get it, but look at the film. Look at the numbers. Look how much better the tackling is. Look how much more disciplined we are. As we keep trending this way, and if we get better quarterback play, we're going to contend. So we need you to keep doing what you're doing because it's going well now. It's trending in the right direction, which is all you can ask for. Because for a lot of the last few years, the Jets are just a rudderless ship. Nobody knows what's going on, what anyone's doing. Now you have an idea. You're trending in the right direction. Things are going well. Let's keep it going. Have a good one, Jets fans.